Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our backyard. Today is Coleus Day. We were gone on vacation, golly, for 12 days, and this is what my Coleus has done. And it was surprising to me because I had come out here and made sure that my Coleus didn't have any buds on them. So all the Coleus looked like this before I left. And in 12 days, amazingly, they did this. Well, I do like Coleus flowers because the pollinators love Coleus flowers. And so I do let my Coleus bloom. But it's still only July. And once Coleus blooms, it puts its effort into the blooms as opposed to the gorgeous foliage. And so today is going to be Coleus maintenance. Plus, I have to say it is a little bit tall, and midsummer is always a really good time to cut back the Coleus. I have found, and just keep it in check so it doesn't get too large. And I'll show you what happens when it gets a little large. I'm starting to think that this is the variety, but this does happen. You can see the split, and Coleus can topple over. This happens to be my proven winner, Sedona Sunset, and it is also reverting back to probably its parent colors. And this is the third year in a row now that this has done this for me. So it very well could be the variety. Proven winners, Sedona Sunset, might just not have really strong stalks like all the rest of the Coleus that I have. Interesting. This gorgeous Coleus is called Kingwood Torch, and I have it in a pot in my shade bed, and throughout its growing time I have kept it pruned, and I pinch it back. I can see that there is some blooms that are starting to grow here from where I had pinched it back earlier. And this just allows a really nice branching effect. Coleus does not hurt, as you know, to pinch back or snip Coleus. They're also easy to propagate for those that you can propagate. You always want to check, because some of your named varieties, like proven winners, you can't propagate, but others are free and open, and you can. So always check that first. But I love Coleus in my shade bed. As you know, they grow so well here in the south, along the Texas Gulf Coast in Zone 9A, and I have shown you how wonderful my shade bed has done, but it has done so well that even even the Coleus that aren't supposed to get as large have really grown. So for an example, I'm going to be cutting back all my Coleus today, but I wanted to show you this variety. This is called Ruby Slipper. And I purchased this at my local nursery as a bedding plant, and they were $1.99 bedding plants in the little bedding plant pots. And Ruby Slipper, oops, sorry about that. Ruby Slipper, they say, is supposed to get a height of 14 to 24 inches tall. And these absolutely in the south are much taller than that. They branch beautifully, as you can see. But Ruby Slipper right now If you include its blooms, I am 5 feet 5 inches tall, and this is, golly, up to my mid chest, close to my neck. So you're looking at easily 4.5 feet tall on something that isn't supposed to get that tall. And so my experience growing Coleus for 3 years now in this wonderful heat and humidity that we have, because it is a tropical, it loves that environment and it grows very well. I do not fertilize, or I have not fertilized Coleus, but what we do is we compost the beds and make sure that we have worked the soil every year, and so that seems to work really well for us and our clay soil. So you will notice that all of my Coleus are, I mean, this bed is gorgeous and they're very, very large. It's all of these are close to 5 feet tall that are in the bed. If you're looking for gorgeous chartreuse color, or this kind of lime green color that just pops in the garden, I highly recommend. Now, this is the first year that I have grown Big Blonde, and it is gorgeous and stunning. And I do have a few bloom stalks. Like I said, I'm going to be coming through and snipping all of my Coleus. But Big Blonde, interestingly, is supposed to get from 10 to 30 inches. And again, in the south here, in the subtropics, it loves the heat and humidity. So in the shade bed, it grows gorgeusly, and it is well, it's a little taller than Ruby Slipper. So you're talking 4.5 feet tall, easily. And with the bloom stalks, it's approaching 5 right now. So I'm going to be snipping all of that, like I said, back. But the leaves are gorgeous. It branches beautifully. So you'll notice it branches beautifully on its own also. It's not, I don't have to come out here and snip this. This will be the first big snip outside of removing the bloom stalks that I have done. And they do recommend by midsummer going through and giving your Coleus a good, not a huge haircut, but cutting it so it's to the desired height. I would like my Coleus right now to be about this height, which is a little bit lower. So I'm going to pan the bed here so you can see the height. And I will be topping this off. I also grow Coleus in pots placed in the shade bed, which I do like the effect. And last year, some of my Coleus reseeded itself. So this one is called Chocolate Covered Cherry, and it was a reseed from last year. And I love the way the leaf structure is. I also like how the green edging just makes this pop, and then that kind of watermelon color in the center vein. The other one that's new to me is this one, and this one's called Festive Dance. It's more of a shade Coleus. It's gotten damaged because I did have some small branches from my tree drop through the leaves here and broke through on the leaves. But I do like the coloring of this. So it was unfortunate that that happened. And he is also starting to bloom, so I've got to take the blooms off of him also. The Coleus I have in the back of my bed is called Special Effects. And I do have this potted, and it kind of peeks through When I look through the bed this way out to the front, it peeks through in the back, and it gives kind of a neat, a nice coloring, because I have a lighter green, then a darker green, lighter green, and then of course the ruby slipper, which is that gorgeous burgundy. And so I do like the layering and the textures, and this is a special effect. The reason I wanted to show you this is this has different flowers. So the bloom stalk is different than a lot of Coleuses, and and it's not major difference, but does provide interesting, an interesting look. And I have let this Coleus flower because I thought that was really fascinating and interesting. The leaves are interesting. This is also a new Coleus to me, so I'm kind of testing it out, seeing what I think, and so far I like it. A little bit of a disappointment for me has been what I have said has been my favorite Coleus color, which is Proven Winners Sedona Sunset. And this is the third year I have grown this, purchased it and grown it. And it is supposed to be 24 to 40 inches. And I have always loved the color of this. And I have planted it in both the landscape, which I have here. I've planted it for 3 years in a landscape and also in pots. And I have to say, in my landscape, I am disappointed because it does not perform as well as the other Coleus that I have purchased at my local nursery. I do love the color, but this is the third year now, and it does break, and we don't have huge high winds down here, unless of course there's a storm, but it doesn't support itself. And so love the color, but I've been somewhat disappointed. So I don't know if I'm going to have Sedona Sunset in my garden, in the garden bed anymore. I might just keep it in pots because I was expecting this to grow much taller than my other Coleus. In fact, it was a bigger plant when I planted it, and all of the Coleus around it have just done so much better than my 4 Sedona Sunset plants that I had planted. So that's interesting to me. You know, I do see the Proven Winners Coleus do so well in so many parts of the country, and I'm just wondering if in the deep south it just doesn't do as well. One of the things that I've heard, and I've heard it multiple times now, is you should purchase your plants locally if at all possible, because they were grown in the conditions that is local to you. So that doesn't mean like a big box store that gets them brought in. These are your local nurseries that actually plant and grow the plants in the conditions that are local to you. And so I do try to do that, although I do see the gorgeous plants and you know, I will order some of those gorgeous plants, and I do have to say a lot tend to not be as successful because of the local conditions are pretty tough down here. So as far as snipping or what's called pinching the Coleus tops, that's fairly easy. You can take your fingers and pinch the stem, and it comes off very nicely. So I do that. That is one way, what is called pinching. I'm pinching off the bloom. Okay, I've come through and cleaned it up somewhat. I might come through again in a couple of weeks and just do a little bit more cutting. Haven't decided yet. I do like the look of the way it's interspersing. So, haven't totally decided if I want to cut the tops off just a little bit more, because I certainly can. They are, I like how this looks, so I just have to, I'm going to give it a little bit, let it recover a little bit from the cuts that I did make. And Coleus are so hardy. Like these guys, I'm probably going to cut a little more. I don't like that they're super high like that, so super tall. I do want it to be more bushy, so I think I am. They do branch beautifully, as you can see, so I probably do want to cut that off just a tad bit more here. Anyway, that is my Coleus maintenance. It did get away from me a little bit while we were on vacation, but golly, Coleus is just, it's one of those plants that you can really, it's hard when you cut them back to to do them any damage. They really respond well. So if you have Coleus and it's midsummer, you might want to think on trimming it somewhat. And I'm going to go through here again, it looks like, and take a little bit more off. Okay, well, thanks for joining me today, and I hope you are having a wonderful time in your gardens. This happens to be my shade garden, and I just really hope you have a wonderful day today. Thanks for joining me.